Welcome to Dissecting the 80s. I am Trip Lano, one half of the Mega Podcasting Powers. And with me, as always, he's here, the Macho Man Drew. His light has just started flickering in like a real poltergeist in real life situation. So
I wish this was a visual medium.
I might just get the pukies from your light situation here very shortly.
I'll turn it off. Andrew Lano, currently haunted.
Yeah.
That's my lower third, like I'm on the news.
Yes. We watched Poltergeist, which is celebrating its 40th anniversary, so you know what that means.
We gotta go back. We gotta go dissect the 80s. It's your headstones! You only move the headstones!
When the mega powers explode!
I'm talking about the 80s. Oh, yeah.
Great Scott!
Cream of the crop. Oh, yeah.
Mega powers, yeah!
When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
Yeah, this movie we'll get into it. But the fake out ending of this movie always leaves the wrong taste in my mouth. This is the first time, right?
It was my first time watching.
Okay.
But like through this cultural zeitgeist, I know the big beats and like the fun facts as like a movie nerd. And so like my boyfriend was watching it with me, and we get to the point where Zelda says his house is clean, and I was like, is the clown thing in the second movie? Like that seems weird that the sequel would have such an iconic thing. And Jack was like,
yeah,
I don't know. He couldn't remember. And then I was like, wait, there's also supposed to be real skeletons in the pool. There are 15 minutes left in this movie. Are they about to jam pack? Like they were like, this is the Disney fireworks finale of movie finales.
Basically. Yes, essentially, yes, exactly that. It's a good way to put it. And the other thing is like everybody remembers it was like an Indian burial ground, which I think might be true in the sequel, but is definitely not true here.
No, I think it's probably because it's a joke. It's not an Indian, like, because Mr. Teague says it's not like it's an ancient native burial ground.
Yeah. It's just people, regular old people.
Yeah.
We start off with your classic before our time national
I didn't
anthem.
know it started with this.
Okay.
Because I knew that the end of the broadcast day was like a key element of this movie, which is why I'm curious to see the sequel or like the remake that was like 5 years old or whatever.
Yeah.
It kind of blipped and
I never
happened.
Saw it.
And
yeah.
Was it okay?
I never saw it, but I know.
Oh, you never saw it?
No, I said I never saw it. Yeah, I never saw it. I like this one quite a bit, so I had no reason to go back.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this, but I didn't know it opened, because I heard the Star Spangled Banner, and I was like, does this open with the end of the... do we waste
crazy.
No time in this movie.
Yeah, really crazy. Yeah, she's already talking to the TV. I also forgot how strobe light effect this movie is, and I don't know if it was just like today and is a bad day for me, but strobe lights can sometimes make me queasy, and I had to like close my eyes and put my hand over them for a couple times during this movie because I was getting full on queasy from it.
It made really cool movement quality for like when Carol Ann is like crawling down the bed, because strobe lights just have that effect as you move,
sure.
Which I was like, oh, I wonder if that was like obviously it's intentional. But like if they were like, if we make it stroby from the static, it will make the movement. Like if that was all conscious, or if they were like, it does the thing.
Yeah. And then, of course, we get Steven Spielberg with a big name in the credits, and also Tobe Hooper. Depending on who you ask, Spielberg may have directed a significant portion of this movie. Some people say it's Tobe, some people say it's Steven. It really depends on who you ask. My assumption is it was like somewhat collaborative with like obviously the much more famous director getting a little bit more sway on some of the decisions. There are some shots in this movie that are undeniably Spielberg shots and edits.
Oh, for sure.
Spielberg edits. So obviously, his fingerprints are all over this, even if Tobe did do some of the directing. And there are parts of it that do feel more like Tobe Hooper. The ones where it leans more Evil Dead-y, I feel like feels a little more.
Yeah, when it feels a little grittier.
Yeah. But it's interesting watching this. I've seen it once or twice before, but I feel like Ghostbusters owes this movie a lot, which I hadn't really put together until watching it this time.
I see that.
And on the other side, I feel like this movie pulled a little from Evil Dead for sure.
For sure. I really like the music in this movie.
Really good Jerry Goldsmith score all throughout.
Yeah, because the creepy like TV ghost music that sort of plays every time they're talking to the TV, it's just very unsettling.
Yes, it is.
And then there's the sort of discordant horns that happen later that like it doesn't sound like music. Like it doesn't sound like it's not a tune or a melody you can hum along with.
Right, right.
It's very well done.
Yeah, it's really like atonal, I think is the term for the thing you're describing there. Really, really great stuff. We get a nice, very Spielbergian bit of business here with like the two neighbors have the same TV and the remotes are interfering with each other, which I thought was a good bit of business to start out with.
It's so interesting that this movie doesn't open with idyllic suburbia.
Right. Well,
it opens creepy and then shows, and I was like, normally it's the other way.
Right. It's like the rotting underbelly. Do you watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine at all, or have you seen it at all?
I've seen like maybe an episode's worth of content.
Okay. Do you know Hitchcock and Scully, the two like older, heavier goofball cops that are just like hanging around?
I like know that they exist, but I know nothing about them.
The actor who plays Hitchcock is the one who comes into the house carrying all the beers and then drops them, and they're spraying beer all over the place. He's obviously
he doesn't drop them. Shitty kids make him fall and drop the beers.
That's true.
I would have beat those fucking kids.
You probably shouldn't beat children in general. Not a wise choice.
Kids shouldn't be making me drop the beer that I'm biking
this is
with.
fair.
I'm doing an impressive thing by biking with a case of beer.
You got to yell at the parents in this situation. So there's like a bunch of things going on. The bird has died, and the mom is trying to flush it down the toilet, and Carol Ann catches her. But like flushing a bird down the toilet is a ludicrous choice. Like that's the worst way to get rid of this bird.
I think most small pets get flushed like that. We just weren't a pet family.
Yeah, I would be surprised if people are flushing birds and lizards. That seems like a bonkers way to do it. Like, look, maybe putting them in the trash is too unceremonious, and having the funeral is too ridiculous. But like flushing down the toilet you're gonna clog that toilet. Then you gotta have a plumber come over, and he's like, "Here's your problem. There's a bird in your toilet." Like you don't need.
I think that bird's small enough to go through the toilet.
I mean, the pipe on the bottom of the toilet is like not that big. The hole in the ground is big, but like the toilet itself, you can back that thing up with a bird. I feel I'm not a plumbing expert, as you might imagine.
Yeah, I also like that it's basically one of the cave canaries. It's acting with the cave canary for this.
That's a great point. I'd never put that together ever, and you're exactly right. It's the canary in the coal mine for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, very good observation. Also, there's an awesome tree in the backyard.
Oh yeah, the gnarled looking. Haunted mansion tree.
It's very clearly carved, so it'd be safe to climb. Sorry, you were about to say something.
Carol Ann reminds me of the kids in Village of the Damned.
Oh, she totally does. That snow white hair.
That like snow white hair and a very round angelic face that's a little creepy, but like
I think she's an incredibly cute kid. Like well casted in that regard.
Oh, she's very adorable.
Oh my god, this cherubic child is not. I guess cherubic's the wrong word, but this angelic little child. She's about to go.
Apparently, he wanted this. I don't know if we talked about this during E.T., but Drew Barrymore auditioned for this role.
Oh.
Or like wanted this role, and they were like...
She might be too sympathetic.
Yeah, I don't think she's the right energy, but so he put her in E.T. instead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so that was the thing. He couldn't do this movie on E.T. because of the schedules, but then he essentially did both movies anyway. He was on set of this every day.
E.T. got pushed or something, I think.
No, maybe that was it, or maybe it was like a slight delay, but yeah, he essentially made both the movies anyway. So it's bedtime. We're putting the kids to bed. There's a nightmare clown.
Is the clown a real thing? Like, is it? Do you think they like made it for the movie, or is it like a real toy?
It's like an off the shelf product. Nothing seems off the shelf except the generic toys.
All the Star Wars at reasonable prices. Yes, Star Wars.
That's true. And if you're paying attention, The Empire Strikes Back will be out in just 1 year.
Oh, really?
Right, 81, 77, 81, 83, I think is the Star Wars movies. I think that's
sure.
Right. Somebody out there can tell me if I'm wrong on Twitter. No one ever talks about Star Wars angrily on Twitter. I'm sure this will be fine. So it's nighttime. We're putting the kids to bed.
The spooky tree is outside the window.
Yes. And then mom and dad, the good little Reaganites, are having their casual after the kids go to bed joint, which always love
it's like judgment-free casual.
Yeah. It's just like, this is what we do to unwind after the kids go to bed. It seems like dad's a Reaganite and mom's maybe like an ex-hippie, and so maybe she like pulled him toward this side of that thing. But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. Craig T. Nelson's got some big hot dad energy in this movie.
Yeah, he does. He does. He can't roll a joint to save his life. He spills weed all over the bedspread.
No, well, that's a very specific skill to have.
it gets like mysteriously cleaned up between shots, but he spills like all of it and then just hands the wife the box and it's like, you do it.
Yeah, I didn't see the cleanups in between, but I did see that he was like, "Hey, you got it, lady fingers."
It's also funny that like she has already rolled in his smoking one. It's like they both need a J. They're not going to like share this. I find that very funny. So Robbie is scared of the psycho clown in his room because of course he is,
and the tree,
terrifying clown, and the tree. And so he comes in and sort of catches mom and dad. And she has to like quickly hide the joint, which is funny.
She takes a puff first, though. It's not an immediate like hot stamp in the thing. She sees him and goes, "Uh-oh." And I was like, I respect that.
It's wild to me that it's not like, Mom, Dad, it stinks in here.
Yeah, right. Although Carol Ann, apparently the first cigar box is clearly the first weed stash box.
Yes, absolutely. Because she's like, he wouldn't like the way it smells in there. And then later you see them stashing their weed in it. It's like, oh, all right, like, that's funny.
Here, put up a blacklight poster for him. I think you'll get into it.
Yeah. And there's so Craig T. Nelson like takes Robbie back to bed and, you know, Carol Ann's in there. And there's a really great cut from him like convincing the kids to go to sleep to like lightning strikes. And then we switch and all four of them are in mom and dad's bed.
Well, there's also a really smooth bit of exposition where Robbie talks about how he's scared of the tree. And Craig T. Nelson is like, oh, that tree, it's an old tree. It's been there since before my company came in and built the neighborhood. Yes, and I was like, look at this. Look at that.
Yeah, that's great. That is really great. It's a great script. It's a real, like, other than the fact that I don't like the like fake out ending, I think it's a really great script.
Yeah.
So there's an earthquake, but it seems to be localized to just their house because there's no report of it on TV.
Much like Freddy's New Nightmare.
Yeah. Well, and he's like calling people and he's like, yeah, there's an earthquake. And they're like, I don't know what you're talking about, man.
Because the spooky animated ghost hand comes out of the TV while Carol Ann's talking to it. And did you notice that it's the time on the TV is 2:37?
Yes, I did.
So
I did clock that. Is that have a significance? I don't.
So on IMDb, someone said it's probably a reference to Room 237 in The Shining.
Oh, I could see that. Because that's like a cute.
I saw that and I was like, does that mean the broadcast ends at 2:30 and there's a 7-minute like B-roll footage of America and a 7-minute Star Spangled Banner? Because that seems a lot.
I assumed it was like a 2:35 to 2:37, but either way, it's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's more like a, you know, set decorator. Wink, wink, this is cute.
Yeah. So which do you think is more iconic? They're Here or They're Back?
They're Here.
Because I feel like They're Back gets parodied more often.
Probably. I feel like the second movie is worse, and so more parodies of it exist. That seems logical to me.
Have you seen the others?
I've seen 2. I've not seen 3. 2 is like a Jaws 2 where you're like, it's kind of like the same thing, but not quite as good. And then 3, I think, is just Zelda Rubinstein and the kid come back, Carol Ann.
I mean, I'd watch that. I mean, I'd watch Zelda Rubinstein in anything.
She apparently like gets haunted visiting her aunt and uncle in Chicago in an apartment, which doesn't feel as like, it feels like a different thing.
It feels exciting.
Yeah. Also, it's like, you know, this whole thing is about like, you know, it happening in suburbia is kind of the interesting part of it. Although, you know, they're doing the new Evil Dead in the city, and I could see that being interesting. So I don't know.
Wait,
maybe
what?
It's the Evil Dead, like, I don't even know.
Is it the sequel? Is it going to be a sequel to the Fede Alvarez one?
Unrelated to those characters.
If they call it Evil Dead again, I'm going to flip a goddamn table.
I assume it's going to be like Evil Dead : this time it's in a city, but I don't know the answer to that.
Evil Dead Urban Sprawl?
Yeah, exactly. Something like that. So Carol Ann talks about the TV people, and I really like this movie ratchets up relatively quickly once it starts going, but I like this part is kind of on the slow side. Like, you know, the Carol Ann's talking about the TV people, and the mom, like, all the chairs are pushed away from the table, but they're not like crazy.
This movie's very unnerving.
Out. Yes.
It's not I don't think it's super scary in 2022, but it is very like unsettling.
Yeah, I totally agree. And then the part where like the mom turns away from Carol Ann and looks back, and the chairs have all been like flipped up on top of each other.
Because the camera tracks with her.
Yes, it's so good. And she, I think it's Beth Williams is her name, sells it amazing here. So good. Really great performance from her.
So as we were watching, my boyfriend was like, we saw that happen, and he was like, "Oh, I bet Sixth Sense stole that from this." And I forgot there was a moment in Sixth Sense where Toni Collette comes in the room and there's like 2 cabinets open, and she like goes to get the Pop-Tarts, and she turns around and they're all open, and apparently she screams the same way Jo Beth Williams does.
Oh, interesting. I wouldn't have clocked the similarity, but that's a good observation. There's a fun bit of business with like Jo Beth and Carol Ann have clearly been playing with the Poltergeist all day, and then Craig D. Nelson comes home and she's like, look, and she shows him like the chair sliding from the two places, and then she puts a football helmet on Carol Ann and has her slide on the floor, which is pretty fun.
And I like that it's like very clear, explicit evidence, because normally that's not how these movies work. It'll be like it's gonna stop as soon as Dad gets home.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really funny too. There's like, you know, the mom does the chair and she like just jumps for joy. Meanwhile, Carol Ann is so bored of this, she's yawning, and Craig T. Nelson is very confused, like doesn't have any idea what's happening, and it's like trying to puzzle out with a solution here. Yeah.
Also, I forgot to mention it earlier because we're clipping along. It's some top tier dog acting.
Really good dog in this movie. I especially like the part later when the dog gets in the taxi. We can talk about it then, but it's like a very good dog actor.
He's a good boy. Capital G, capital B.
Should have been up for dog Oscars in my personal.
Honestly, sometimes I wish they would give out a little special like golden milk bone, like milk bone, sponsor that, and it can be like, hey, sometimes you just get a really great dog actor, and we're gonna give him a little treat. You can put on a little bow tie and send him to the Oscars.
Yeah, and now like you used to have to have more categories, but now it's pretty much only dogs. I guess maybe you get a horse actor here and there now, but like pretty much all animals are CGI now. So
they are.
Fewer people to nominate. I'm saying like a dog category, a cat category is probably about as far as you go.
I agree. I also really like the transition from before. This is it was before Craig T. Nelson comes home and they show him everything, but there's a great transition to show that like this is a cookie cutter neighborhood because it's the family's kitchen, and then the table fades out, and then Craig T. Nelson walks in because he's showing off the property to someone else.
Yeah, really, really awesome. They're like, I don't know, Marge, everyone in these houses seems the same. And Craig T. Nelson's like, that's right, they are. But our construction quality has never been higher.
Also, are they high talking to the neighbor? I feel like
think so.
The way they're like giggly in a very like high person giggly, I was like, did we miss a scene where they like toked real quick?
It could be possible that is it. I assumed they were like trying to make it out like, boy, is this a silly thing we're about to ask you, so they don't come off like lunatics.
Maybe the way
like
the giggle to me
it on.
Felt more. I'm a little stoned. And I did not expect to have to talk to someone right now.
Yeah. I don't know. I also really want to point out the incredibly good mosquito acting they're both doing.
Yeah, so I guess mosquitoes are just a metaphor for the supernatural in this movie.
I guess I don't really understand. The mosquitoes never come back. They're not part of anything except this one sequence.
It's not like Amityville where those fucking bugs are everywhere.
Right. Yeah, it seems almost as if the movie is like the Poltergeist is trying to be like, hey, this doesn't involve them. Don't go over there. But I see. It's a weird thing that never comes back.
Also, using the logic that this house is the only one affected in the neighborhood, the ending of this movie would be fucking bananas.
Yes. When, like,
there's a 12-foot column of flame coming out of a fire hydrant, and cars are being flipped by ghost hands, and it's like, if no one else had anything going on, this is a lot.
From zero to that would be like, truly people would be like just crying in the street, like full on weeping. Like
people would be killing their families to save them from the apocalypse.
Yeah. Speaking of insane stuff, the tree arms coming through the window
already
next sequence, so good, and also so Evil Dead.
Yes, it is.
I guess it's their back window, so it's possible someone couldn't have seen it, but I feel like the neighbors would have had to hear the sound of glass exploding as this happened.
I mean, it takes a while for them to show up late at the very end when Jo Beth Williams is like screaming her little head off.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, he gets yoinked by the evil tree, and then the kid's closet sucks everything in the room, including what looks like 12 pounds of glitter, loose glitter. Which like
Carol Ann's loose glitter collection.
Yeah, like I needed to pan and see like she has like an Ursula's magical cabinet full of just like little bottles of glitter.
Yeah,
because it's weird how much glitter is being sucked into this thing, and then the dummy at the end. We got like it is a primo dummy.
Tracking the Carol Ann dummy through this movie is a delight.
It is.
Because later when the mom is running with Carol Ann in her arms, it is a Carol Ann dummy.
Oh, for sure.
But yeah, they filmed this really well. It's like clearly a room that they can tilt up on its axis and make everything roll.
I couldn't tell if it was that or if it was mostly like fan work to just blow things in that direction.
I definitely think there's a fan involved, but the way the camera is positioned makes me think the room is at like a slight tilt, so things roll better. But I'm not sure. And that also,
they clearly have a rotating room because I use it later, and I always love it. A rotating room set is the best.
Great effect. Even when it's used in stupid stuff like the Jamiroquai Virtual Insanity video. Love a rotating room. Okay, some people got that reference.
I'm sure they did. I did not.
But this part's really delightful. Like, it takes about 40 minutes till this part where the shit really hits the fan. But there's like a tornado touching down. So many good practical effects. Robbie, the little brother, is getting eaten by a tree. Greg T.
I will say, I don't like that we don't see him get rescued. He's literally like waist deep in the tree, and then he's like, save me. And then we cut to Carol Ann get like dummied into the closet. And then we cut back, and it's just Craig T. Nelson holding the boy, and they eat shit. They fall out of that tree so hard, dude.
Oh, yeah. And like, clearly Spielberg was like, I'm going to put that in the pocket and come back to that in 1992. Jurassic Park.
Yes.
But I think my guess is that it probably didn't look good.
Probably. I'm sure that is
fake.
It's a boring practical answer. As the moviegoer was like, well,
no, I'm with you. Yeah, I'm with you.
And then they search for Carol Ann all over the house. I do like the
also, there's a Evil Dead portal above the tree right after that.
Yeah, it gets sucked into
full Evil Dead portal. Yeah, sorry. Looking for Carol Ann.
Because first they like see it in the back of the closet. There's like a human shaped figure with a blanket over it, and it's the clown doll.
Yeah. And
Carol Ann's in the TV.
Yeah, and so Craig T. Nelson's outside. He's like diving around in the pool. He's coming up, and I feel like if you took the stuff that happened at the end and put it in the rest of the movie, and then it ended with like Zelda Rubinstein being like, the house is clean, I think I would like this movie a little more. I like this movie, but I think I would like it a little more. And this is a perfect example of like, maybe it's the mom swimming and the skeletons pop up here, you know?
Yeah, I agree. Or if they just didn't send the kids away.
Yes.
Yeah, like they were about to send them away and then everything happened.
Yeah. Like, we got to get them out of here. Oh, wait. You know, hellfire and brimstone has rained down upon us.
Exactly. Also, she is 32 with 3 kids and a house.
I mean, it's a different time back then. Houses cost like $4.
And one of her kids is 16. I was like, oh my God, you've been a parent for so long already.
Is she 16 in real life or 16 in you're talking about the actors' ages?
No. Craig T. Nelson says my wife is, in the next scene when he's talking to the Venkman group.
The Venkman Group.
That sounds like a weird like accounting firm or like law firm.
It does. Yeah. Have you been affected by mesothelioma? Call the Venkman Group.
You may be entitled to compensation. He says my wife is 32 and because they say, you know, tell everyone their ages, and he says my oldest daughter is 16, and then he has a 10 and an 8-year-old, I think is what he says.
Yes, yeah.
And
so
I was like,
they had a high school kid, and then, you know.
But I was just like, you've been parents for so long already.
Yeah. No wonder they're token up after the kids go to sleep.
Oh, I would be. I'm 30, and I'm like I'm like still asking, hey Siri, what time does Taco Bell close? Like I'm so worlds beyond that.
Different world, man. Different world. How homes cost nothing, and there was no internet.
Yeah.
And there was no low-grade existential dread in permeating everybody's existence yet.
No. I mean, if there was, you didn't talk about it. You went and cried in the bathroom like a man.
Yeah, exactly.
You turned the shower on so no one can hear you.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. You do what you're supposed to do in 1982.
So Craig T. Nelson
not us.
brings the Venkman group over to the house. And I thought we were just going to see like a few, you know, we're going to play a few hits. But then they're like, well, we want to see the child's room. And he's like, we locked it. We don't go in there anymore. And like, we need to see it. And they open it, and it literally looks like Madame Leota's chamber from the Haunted Mansion. Like, everything is spinning in a circle, like on a pivot or like on a string around the room. And I was like,
yes.
Oh, that's not what I thought we were going to see.
And there's like a floating record and a compass, like for drawing circles, compass, like comes down and makes the record make noise and stuff. But this is especially great because it's like, they're walking up to the room, and the one guy's like, one time I used my time-lapse camera, and I caught actual movement on film, and they're like, "Oh, okay," and then they rip the door.
That's
open,
adorable.
and this insane, like everything in the room is spinning and floating and whatever, and then we cut from that to like the compass almost stabs the lead lady of the penguin group, and then we cut to her holding a teacup that's like
It's some great teacup acting.
Yeah, really tremendously. Teacup Oscar all around there.
So she's like, I'm not really. She's trying to say like, I don't know, I'm out of my depth. The coffee pot slides across the table, and the family just like grabs it and moves it back. Like they're clearly all over this shit at this point. Like, yeah. So anyways, slide.
Yeah, she's like, I'm not sure this is a haunting. The coffee pot moves, and she's like, well, she's addressing the.
What I meant to say was,
I think it's a poltergeist.
Which is funny because
poltergeist.
When you get to the end of the movie, it's not a poltergeist. It is a haunting.
Yes, yeah.
Which is the ironic part.
Aren't they like, like not every rectangle is, or every rectangle is a square, but not every square is a rectangle, or what, vice versa?
So
I think is how you're supposed to say.
Typically poltergeists, like they say, are attached to a person, and hauntings are attached to a location. Because we learn later that they only move the headstones, it's a haunting. It's the place. They're mad at the place. It's not like Carol Ann, because I'm someone who believes in the supernatural and ghosts and all of that. But if you look at accounts of poltergeists, a lot of them are attached to sad, lonely, bored teens. And then as soon as the teen gets put into like an asylum or somewhere where no one's watching them anymore, magically they all get better.
Yeah.
Not all. A lot of them will magically get better, and it's like, oh, gee, that's interesting.
Yeah, I wonder if somebody was just, desperately in need of help, and finally someone heard their cry.
Oh, I don't even mean like that. I just mean like it's a teen just acting out for fun because...
Oh, sure.
And then they're like, you're in a padded room, and they're like, well, I'm bored now. I gotta get out of here.
Yeah. I'm not haunted anymore. I'm all better, and I'd like to come inside.
Let me out, Ash.
They all turn into Wilford Brimley out in the shed.
Oh, I went Cheryl.
Yeah.
Nope. Yes.
I'd like to come back inside now. I'm all better.
So as they're talking to Carol Ann through the TV, the one dude is like, I'm going to look around for a CB radio. And it's like, hey, dude, what part of this feels like a hoax now?
Yeah.
If they started with TV talking.
Yes.
That honestly would have been better if they started with TV talking. He's like, I'm going to go look for a CB radio, keep them distracted. And he stumbled into the room with like the spinning stuff.
Yeah.
Then you
would have been
a more logical progression. Because I'm like, you don't
falls down the stairs.
You don't open with that and be like, I bet this is fake. Because how?
Yeah. That feels like an editing mistake. Like that scene, that line was supposed to be 10 minutes ago.
Yeah. And then
like there's even a part where like the coffee pot slides across and they both go to check under the table. And I'm like, you just watched a record play itself with a compass. What are we talking about?
Yeah. And then a portal opens in the ceiling and like a bunch of old, like ancient looking jewelry and stuff falls out of it. And I was like, this is not something that gets explored in a lot of haunted media.
No. Yeah. Well, there's also a thing later on, we're jumping ahead a little, but we'll backtrack. She later she has like a watch and a brooch or what are they called? A
cameo.
Yes, thank you. I was like, it's a word that I think it was meaning something else. Like those just showed up.
That was from the ceiling.
Oh, okay.
Those were the things that fell out of the
That's
ceiling.
What I thought. Okay. I thought that was what it was, but I must have been taking a note and missed part of it.
Also, the dog's name is Buzz.
Yes.
That's a weird name.
Yeah, I thought
I don't mean a
Rebus.
dog name shame, but that's a weird name.
I thought it was Rebus, the picture puzzles.
I don't know that.
You remember Lion's Head
Like a magic eye?
No, like a picture. Like, do you remember? Did you ever drink Lion's Head beer? Did your friends ever?
Oh yeah. And my ex-boyfriend, my college boyfriend, he popped open a beer and like put the cap down, and I picked it up when he wasn't looking, and I was like trying to solve it. And this was like a month or two into our relationship, and I was like solving the thing. I went, "Oh, I love you," and he was like, "What?" And I was like, "Nope. I was solving the puzzle."
That's great. Well, that's called a rebus.
Okay.
And you had a rebus accident.
I did. They have an interesting little whispered conversation about the afterlife, just sort of like I guess it's sort of like if you have no concept of what an afterlife is, which I feel like most religions have some idea. So it's just funny the way they're explaining it of like, well, sometimes you go to heaven, sometimes you get stuck, and blah 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 blah.
Yeah, I feel like the whisper is a really underutilized acting technique and movie technique. It's not done a lot, but I feel like this whole conversation makes you like kind of lean forward to pay attention to what's going on, even though you can hear perfectly fine. Like the sound mixing is very good actually, but it's like such an underutilized technique for it creates like a higher level of intimacy in this moment. It creates like a sort of bubble that we all want to be part of. I thought it was really interesting.
I guess whisper feels very like you're trying hard.
Yes.
Like if your characters are whispering, it's like, all right, what?
Yes. Yeah, totally.
But this doesn't have that feel.
It's also kind of like the moment in Jaws where it's like, this is like sort of like the eye of the storm, which I feel like is
when they show scars.
Yeah. I feel like this is like a standard Spielberg trope is like slow build, huge action moment, eye of the storm, another huge action beat comes on the backside of it. Like that's in Jurassic Park, that's in Jaws. I mean, there are other examples, but like it's exactly.
Would you say it's the
scene.
ice cream and the flea circus in Jurassic Park?
Yeah, that happens at the same time the kids are like sleeping in the tree. That happens at the same time.
Yes,
that all those things happen at the same time. Yeah, that's the eye of the storm in Jurassic Park. It's like a crazy thing just happened and we're safe, but we're not out of the woods yet.
Yeah.
Literally in the case of Jurassic Park, metaphorically in the other
We're not out.
But they're like swigging this booze right out of the bottle and kind of like swapping war stories.
And then Marty eats a bag of Cheetos, and I was like, I've never seen this style of bag before.
I don't think I clocked the bag. What was it?
So it's just like normally there's some kind of a Chester Cheetah, even if it's like the old like 80s 90s style where he's like very tubey. Mm-hmm. Or what's rubber hose? He's a little rubber hosey.
Yeah.
But it just looked like it just had like Cheeto in a weird print at the top, and it was a clear bag. And I was like, I've never seen that in a movie before.
I'm gonna have to go scrub through and find this Cheeto bag
because it's a very clear like if it was today, it would be a very clear product placement. But I don't think it was meant to be in 1982.
Right. It was just whatever he picked up off Crafty.
Yeah, and then he goes, I'm gonna go get some food in the kitchen. And this motherfucker pulls out a steak from their fridge.
He pulls out an 1.5 inch thick ribeye that could easily serve 2 adults, and he throws a pan on the stove. And I'm like, you're gonna sear off this ribeye at 3 a.m? You're gonna wake everyone up.
Also in the middle of a ghost investigation.
Right. And he's eating a chicken leg while this happens. He's doing.
I've done the drumstick appetizer.
He's doing a full Gremlins.
Yeah, I also am a gremlin when it comes to food, nighttime food. I have fully done because I also do it when I get like drive-through food. I get something to eat on the way home. So at Taco Bell, it's a cheesy bean and rice burrito that I eat on the way home, where I then eat the rest of my Taco Bell.
Eating a Taco Bell in the car is a good way to get cheese sauce on your shirt through a rip in a burrito, in my experience. Or sour cream.
No, because you banana it, so you only peel what you are about to eat.
But you got a breakthrough in the tortilla.
See, the structural integrity when you eat it when it's hot is there. There's structural integrity there.
I see. I'm not as big of a. I know you're the T-Beller.
I love a Taco Bell.
Don't eat a ton of fast food. That's not my fast food choice. But I have 100% been like, I'm driving home late at night and I got a.
And this is open.
Yeah, and then taking a bite and it like, that's on my shirt now, or it's on the seatbelt.
I mean, I'm not gonna say it's never happened to me, but generally it doesn't.
Okay.
And then we get a meat caterpillar.
Yeah, it's really creepy looking. It looks so unsettling.
Even reading on IMDb how they did it, I still don't understand the mechanics.
What did you read? Because I did not look it up.
It said like there were like a wire on each end and slits in between the tiles, and I was like, but still, like wire to me means like a string essentially. I'm picturing more like.
I think it was more like the string that's on Kermit's hands, the wire for Kermit's hands.
Oh, like a pole.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that would make more sense that it was, they stuck two skewers through the either end of the stake so they could. That would make sense.
I think that must be it. Like there was a slit and it was like pull push.
And then it like I don't know what happens to this steak. It like turns inside out and like
Yes.
a lot of stuff starts coming out of it.
The amount of like inside that becomes outside of this steak is like 4 steaks worth of meat bits.
It's crazy. And then we get a classic, you were eating something gross, fake out.
Yes.
He drops his drumstick on the floor, and it's covered in maggots.
You were eating maggots, Michael. That's all I could think of was that scene in Lost Boys.
Oh, yeah. So they have this weird, like, laundry room with a sink with a mirror. Like, why is... I understand
There's
having a sink in your laundry room,
Yes.
but why is there a mirror above it?
Well, also, he's like 4 steps from the kitchen sink when he goes to this slop sink. It's very odd.
Yeah,
Like,
because
why
he
would
has
you
to
have
throw
2
open the
sinks that
doors.
close? Yeah. I mean, I guess a slop sink is for a different task than your sink, I suppose, but it just seems
It's
like
probably
a weird-
I guess it is more considered to throw up into
Yeah.
a slop sink.
Yeah. I honestly, I've seen this movie a couple of times. I did not remember this sequence at all, and I think it's one of the wildest sequences of the movie.
Really? This is like one of the most iconic moments in the movie, I feel like.
I had no recollection of this part. This felt new to me. I mean, obviously I've seen it before, but it felt totally new to me. I wish it didn't look so dumb. It gets does,
real
yeah.
dummy real fast.
Yeah. It even
And
like
apparently-
you first see the cut on his cheek, it looks pretty fake.
Yeah. Apparently it's Steven Spielberg's hands.
Oh, that's wild.
He like
I wonder why
like
that
he
is.
could. I think he was like, I know how I want this to look.
Oh, sure.
So-
It's literally the words came out of my mouth, and I was like, because he wanted to do it exactly the way he wanted to do it. Like, yep, okay.
I mean, he's no James Cameron. I was at James Cameron. James Cameron,
Jim.
but
is that the plural when you have 2 James Camerons?
yeah, you have 2 James Camerons. James Cameron.
Like how the plural of attorney general is attorneys general.
Or if you're, or if a married couple are both doctors, they are doctors.
Doctors, yes.
That's what I call my best friend's parents are both married. So to be as obnoxious about it or married doctors, I should say.
Yeah.
To be as obnoxious about it as possible, I call them doctors, Mr. and Mrs. last name.
Nice.
You want it sweaty?
Dr. and Mr. and Mrs. is a very sweaty. Very, very sweaty. No, I always like it sweaty, you know. That's my general existence, day to day.
So then, as all this is happening to Marty, I think, is it Morty? Marty?
Yeah, I believe that's his name. I did not clock any of the Venkman trio, which I did not call the Venkman trio, but is better than scientist, which is what I wrote down.
They cut back to the other guy, the only black man in the movie with dialogue, and his job was to be looking at the monitors.
I don't know that you need the qualifier there. Is there another black actor in this movie that doesn't speak?
That's what I was saying. I don't know. There could have been like a background person.
Oh, okay.
Like I was like, I don't know if there was a black guy watching the Super Bowl with them, or like, well, the Super Bowl. It was just a football game,
Right.
But he is like fully turned away from the 2 monitors, and the camera is moving, and we're starting to see like a ghostly apparition. I'm assuming they did this like blue screen underwater.
Yeah, I was curious. It feels like a digital effect, but I don't know how I assumed it was drawn, like hand animated.
I don't know, because it feels a lot like the ghosts in Muppet Christmas Carol. They have that like underwater feel to them.
Yeah, you're right. It could be that. I really don't know. It looks cool as hell, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
I also didn't. This is the first time that you see it in the movie, I think. But they have like at least 10-foot tall tree in the living room that goes like over the archway and towards the second floor. And it seems like a living tree, and it's just like a giant bonsai or something that it's shaped that way. But that seems like a nightmare. Like it's gonna shed leaves all the time, and I
would kill that plant.
Yeah.
2 months
better
with
be
me,
very
that plant is shriveled and dead.
You got to be very confident for that.
So it's weird when they see it in quote unquote real life, like as it's happening. It looks like there's one ghost figure coming down the stairs.
Yep.
And then they're like, watch the footage. And they're like, look, there's hundreds of ghosts. And I was like, well, where were they 5 minutes ago?
Yeah. So the mom is convinced it was Carol Ann that ran through her because she can like smell her on the.
But we didn't see that. Mom goes up the stairs and you get this like her hair gets blown back. There's no like effect. It's just like the hair blown back, and she's like, it was Carol Ann. And then later is when we actually see an apparition come down the stairs.
Got it. Okay, I must have crossed wires there because I was going to say maybe that was the explanation. And it is weird that they do that. Maybe they do try to act like the camera equipment is really special and like specialized in particular. So maybe that's part of it.
Maybe. They talk about the footage and how the woman's like, we'll need to like broad display this or something. And Beth Williams goes, just don't put it on That's Incredible. And I was like, Craig T. Nelson's going to become Mr. Incredible.
He's also like not on 60 Minutes, and he seems like he's in pretty good spirits. Like it's almost like a joke, despite the fact that when you see Craig T. Nelson saying this, he looks about as haggard as any actor I've ever seen.
He looks like Mr. Incredible in the middle of Incredibles 2.
That's true. It's true.
Before he gets his shit together.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. He does. They clearly were like, when has Craig T. Nelson looked the worst? Oh,
in Poltergeist. So then the boss comes over to be like, hey, you haven't shown up for work in, I guess, a couple weeks. And he keeps having to like turn his boss, like when the piano starts moving, and he's like, well, why don't we just, let's leave. Let's take a walk.
There's a great moment where he turns him and then he like steps out the door and you hear the piano go like flung as it like gets shoved across the room.
You hear that classic like falling piano sound.
Yeah, and the boss is like pointing out everything. He's like, you got like a whole, Circuit City in here. And then like the light bulbs growing nuts on the front. And he's like, what, you got a 300-watt bulb in there? Ha 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 ha.
Well, he also somehow, he doesn't explain what he thinks he's doing, but he's like, do you have a side gig going on? Is that why you don't come to work? And I was like, doing what? Like, What do you think in 1982 he's doing with 3 television monitors and a camera?
Yeah, I would very much want to know. And if the answer is anything other than shooting pornography, I would love to know what it means, because that's what it seems like. He's like duplicating tapes or something would be the only logical move to me.
Yeah.
Also, we skipped over, we'll go right back to the boss thing as they drive up the hill, but they send Robbie away after the like apparitions down the stairs moment. And he's like very upset. Like he's like, it's just my sister, I'm trying to save her and stuff. It's interesting to me that the 2 little kids are pretty big characters in the movie, but I feel like the older sister's barely a character.
Yeah, they kind of sweep her out a lot. They're like, yeah, she's at her friend's house. And I'm like, well, I mean, she could be around.
Yeah, and it's like, well, can we have the scene where Craig T. Nelson's like, hey, don't tell anybody about this?
Yeah, don't tell your friends that there's a ghost in our house.
Yeah, exactly. It seems very strange. But he's really mad, which I think is good. Like, it's a good little performance from this kid of like, I'm really mad about this. And then the dog is like, well, I'm getting out of here. And like,
oh yeah, the dog's like, I'm donezo.
And I really needed dialogue from this cabbie as like a golden retriever hops into his car with no warning. And then they cut and the mom's like, Robbie! And the dog's in the front seat.
What I wanted was Robbie like, I don't want to go. And then the dog jumps in and shuts the door and like puts an arm out, a leg out the window and is like, see you later, toots.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like the cabbie being like, I'm sorry, folks, I don't transport dogs just loose in my vehicle. They need to be in a carrier.
So this is where another really smooth graveyard reveal, because
yes,
I see the graveyard and he's like, we can't, because the boss is clearly like, we're going to entice you to stay with our company by giving you a nicer new house, which is going to be this first house. And then he turns around and he sees the graveyard and he's like, that's a little sacrilegious. And in my head, I was like, are we going to have to do this movie? Are we going to like build them a new house and cut to them in the new house? Cause I knew the headstones was a thing, but I haven't seen the full movie. So I didn't know that this was their reveal of the headstones. Cause I was like, are we going to get like a building montage and then they're in the new house?
Sure. Yeah.
Like they think it's all gone.
Yeah. Also, it seems like at the beginning of this movie, like, aren't there moving boxes around, or did I make that up? Like, are they fully in the house at the beginning?
I think they're fully in the house at this point.
Okay. I must have got my
because they're in phase 1 and they're about to open phase 5. So I think they've been there at least a year or 2.
That makes sense. Because it was like, I feel like they didn't move that long ago, and now the guy's like, we're going to build you a new, bigger house that shits on all the old houses, and you can have this one. And it's like, I mean, it's kind of a pain in the ass to move even a short distance, man. Like, I've got to pack everything up again, and like, this sucks.
I mean, if they're going to pay for movers.
Yeah, I mean, if they'll pay for people to pack for you, you take advantage of that. But I just thought it was kind of funny. Gorgeous matte painting of the cemetery. I may have said that already. I can't remember.
You did not, but yes, it is.
Okay. Really, really good matte painting. And then, the boss is like, oh yeah, there's no problem at all. We move him on down to this cemetery down the road, and we'll take care of it there.
Apparently, there's the same kind of tree at this cemetery as outside their house, and it's supposed to be like potentially foreshadowing that they are on a graveyard too.
Oh, that would make sense if it was the same tree as the backyard.
Because this is where he's like, I don't know, that seems like a lot. And the guy's like, we've done it before in your house right now. And it's like, it's basically the equivalent of that Roy Scheider shot where the push in, zoom out moment. I don't know how.
The beach.
Yeah, I'm like, how do you describe it? Yeah, on the beach in Jaws, where like you push into the actor's face while you zoom out, so you get this weird like shift.
I might be getting the term wrong. I believe it's called a split diopter.
No, that's not wrong. This.
Not it? Okay.
No, split diopter is like in Carrie.
Everything's on focus.
Yes, when both sides of the screen are in focus.
Okay. Yeah, there is a term for what they use in Jaws, because I watched a video about how it's like one of Spielberg's favorite
I think it's called a dolly zoom.
That could be. Or a crash zoom, maybe.
No, it's not crash zoom.
Okay. Either way, if you know it, feel free to tweet us. It's at Dissect the 80s. There is a term for it. I can't remember it right now.
So now Craig T. Nelson is aware of why they're being, haunted. And they bring in icon, legend, and star Zelda Rubinstein as Tangina.
So she gets like such a great entrance in this movie, because we go from like the cemetery, like, oh, we'll just move the cemetery. Really ominous piece of Goldsmith score, shot of the front of the house. We're in the house. The family is talking, and then Zelda walks around the corner, and it's like they make her look like a megastar. And it's like, I like Zelda Rubinstein. I find her like very engaging to watch. She's very magnetic. But like, you're talking about a woman who's like 4'2" and rotund and kind of weird looking. And like, I don't mean
they treat her like she's like famous psychic Jean Dixon, or
yes,
like a big deal.
Yes, absolutely. Like, she is the cream of the crop of the psychic world.
But she's such a like, honestly, like. I'm surprised she's not more of a queer icon, because she's campy. She's basically a drag queen without being a drag queen.
Yeah, and the other thing about her, like, you wouldn't expect it, but she's a pretty good physical actor. Later, when she's throwing the tennis balls, she throws them like a really good softball pitch.
Yeah,
I was like, oh, clearly Zelda played softball. Like, knows how to do that. There's a great bit too of like introducing the character where like she's kind of monologuing and walking through the house, and she's like, "Can y'all hang back? You're harsh and my mellow," or whatever the vibe she says, or word she says. And then she asks Craig T. Nelson a question, and he doesn't answer, and she's like, "Am I talking to the living?" And then he says it out loud, and he starts whispering. He's like, "I thought it really hard, and I thought she was a psychic." And she's like, "I just don't like when people mess with me," and then jumps back out of the frame. It was so good.
She's like, "I am. I just don't like trick answers." And then she goes away. Honestly, Zelda, I want to see the movie. It can't happen, obviously. But I want to see the movie where Leslie Jordan and Zelda Rubinstein are brother and sister psychics. Like, wouldn't that be the best?
Yeah, it would be a great odd couple energy for sure.
But not even odd couple, because they're basically on The Sims. You made one person, then you clicked the gender.
Wait, who did you say?
Leslie Jordan.
Okay, am I thinking of the wrong person?
You're thinking of Leslie Jones.
Oh, who's Leslie Jordan?
Leslie Jordan is the short Southern guy, the gay guy.
I don't think I know. Oh, tiny glasses?
Sometimes.
Okay, I think I know who you're talking about. I was thinking Leslie Jordan.
You were thinking Leslie Jordan, which also, honestly, not mad at that either.
I was like, that's definitely an odd couple. Okay, yes.
No, Leslie Jordan.
I know who you're talking about now.
Yeah.
I know who you're talking about now. Yeah, I would watch that. I totally would watch that.
And
There's a great you could take it over for this sequence, but like she starts talking to Beth Williams directly, and Beth Williams on her knees is taller than Zelda Rubinstein.
Yeah, she goes, "I'm gonna give me whiplash. Get down here," and she makes her get on her knees.
It's so funny. She just has like a presence, like it's undeniable. Like you can't not look at Zelda Rubinstein on.
Oh no. And she's basically like turns into a cult leader for a second, where she's like, "You have to do everything I say as I say it, or you're not getting your daughter back, kid."
Yeah.
And then as they're going through the house, she's like, "Which one of you is the disciplinarian?" And she's like, I guess Craig T. Nelson. And he's like, "Well, that's not fair." And she's like, "Fight about it later. I just answer the fucking question. Now you yell at her, threaten to spank her."
Yes. He's like, "We'd never do that." I don't care. Yeah,
that's not important.
This is not the time.
So because she's like, "You have to threaten her, like be the disciplinarian." And then she's like, "Okay, now let's open the door." And the shot of her going into the bedroom with the flashing light coming out of the closet there's something about it that just feels like with the music and the framing and the cinematography, it feels very Tim Burton-y, like Beetlejuice era Tim Burton.
I get that. Yeah, I totally get that. Yeah. There's also, I'm backing up a little bit. There's a funny bit where like, so she talks to Beth Williams, is like, do you agree to do everything, even if it's against your religion? She's like, yes, of course. But then Zelda tries to explain what's going on. And even as an audience member, I'm going like, no, wait, what? And then she's like, do you understand? And all three of the characters are like shaking their heads no. And I'm like, thank God, we need more explanation here because that was not helpful. My read is like, they're all like stuck between moving on and not, and Carol Ann is now stuck there with them. Is that sort of what your read is? Okay.
Yeah, my read is that they're all in the waiting room, essentially in Beetlejuice
or whatever. Okay, yeah.
They're in the Beetlejuice waiting room, and Carol Ann is there, and so they're all confused. It's less bureaucratic, I guess, in this version.
Yeah.
Juno would have sent Carol Ann back in 2 seconds.
Yeah, she's this is just such a great, like, the cult leader vibe, like you said, is like, this is just such a dope scene. It's great performances all around, really awesome shot. Yeah.
So they throw the they said tennis balls, but they look like softballs.
They're gray though. They look fuzzy because they're like they're wet with goop, like in the fuzz of the tennis ball.
Well, even before she throws them, they look like.
Oh, you know what? I bet that they're the dog's tennis balls. Like they're all chewed up because the dog slobbered.
Oh, that could be.
Yeah. Like
so they throw them. They've numbered them 1 and 2, so they can throw them and prove that it's the same one. So I guess so the ghosts don't pull some trickery.
Yeah.
So then they're like, once they've established that, oh, this is the link, let's throw a rope down, and the rope coming out of thin air in the living room looks really cool.
It looks so awesome, especially the part where it's like severed and dangling up there.
Mm-hmm. So they're like, okay, well, now that we figured this out, we gotta. She's like, I'll go in. And Beth Williams is like, she won't listen to you. Let me go. And Zelda goes, you've never done this before. And Beth goes, neither have you. And Zelda's response is, you're right. You go. And I was like, that's so a great joke.
Yeah, and it's like, it's a perfect joke because it doesn't cut the tension of the moment away. It's like enough that, like, you know, you do chuckle at it as an audience member, but you're still like scared for what's about to happen. Like
it's not Joss Whedon quippy.
Yeah. But it also just like, it's like two characters who are scared dealing with it in a way that's really satisfying. It's just it's the great kind of joke for these sequences that I feel like has been lost in favor of the like, well, that happened, which is just like, go to hell.
Yeah. Not everyone's the quip monster.
Right. Yeah, it's the two of them are Beth Williams and Zelda Rubinstein are off the charts good together. Really delightful to see them bounce off each other.
For sure. So then Zelda starts telling them to go to the light or go away from the light.
Yeah,
they keep flip-flopping, and it's hard to keep track of.
Yes, because it's like, at first the parents were like, don't go into the light, which seems like, yeah, because that's probably crossing over and dying. Like, they don't want their kid to do that. But then Zelda seems to be like inviting the ghosts into the house at the end.
Because earlier when Zelda says you have to yell at her, they're like, tell her to go to the light because it'll bring the other ghosts there. Tell her not to go in, but go towards the light so the other ghosts will kind of go that way. And now she's saying, don't go into the light. And so Craig T. Nelson like gets too close to the portal with the rope as he's pulling it, and a giant spooky face appears. It like comes crashing out of it. It's like Evil Dead.
Straight out of Evil Dead. Yeah, this is very clearly somebody was like, hey, did you guys see this movie yet? I mean, it looks cool as hell. It's like it has all the charm of the Evil Dead because it's still done, like even with a lot of money, it's still done in a low tech way, but it's like, oh, this is just the Sam Raimi thing.
So then they get scared from that, and then the Beth Williams and Carol Ann come crashing out of the ceiling covered in goop.
Yeah. It's funny to me that they didn't, like, this is like the mildest of spoilers from Stranger Things, but there's like a part where people fall out of the ceiling in Stranger Things in this season, and they like, the characters are like, let's put a mattress where the people are going to fall down on, and they put a mattress down. And
it would have made more sense.
It's like, why is there not or even some pillows here? Like, you know,
the cushions. Pull the couch cushions off.
Like, we watched this guy catch 2 of these tennis balls. Like, what the hell's going on?
So they put them in the bath to clean them off, and then Zelda primps herself because there's a camera on her, so she gives her a little zhuzh.
But I love the guy being like, he helps carry them into the bathtub, the other Venkman trio guy. Although I guess it's down to a Venkman duo at this point.
It's down to a duo because he says she says he's never coming back, which fair.
I wouldn't either. After I watched myself pull my face off my skeleton, no thanks. But he sprints. He does like a Kool-Aid man to get out of this room to go get his camera to videotape them like in the bathtub afterward.
I mean, you got to get the shot.
Clearly. They're so goopy in the bathtub. It's like so unpleasant to imagine the amount.
And I'm like, I wonder
jelly.
if it looks like it's just like strawberry jam.
Yeah. I wonder if they made like strawberry jam without the sugar or with like, equal or something like that so it was less sticky. But it's like in their ears. Oh, you know what I bet it was? I bet it was aloe with dye in it.
Yeah, or gelatin.
Yeah, that could be. It has more of an aloe-y quality than a gelatin quality, I feel like. It's less chunky and more blobby, if that makes sense.
That's true.
But poor little Carol Ann has it like not just in her ear, but in the like outer swirls of her ear as well. Like every part of her ear has this nasty goop in it.
And so, yeah, Zelda Rubinstein prims herself to say, "This house is clean."
Yeah. And it's like, this is the natural end of this movie. Like, it's like, oh, okay, we're done. And
it firmly is.
It's cathartic. And I get what they're doing. Like, they want you to feel a little unsettled. And I think that's all part of it and stuff. But I just think the movie would flow better if you took all this last bit and put it in the preamble.
Yeah, because I was like, again, there's 15 minutes left in this movie. And I know the clown and that has to happen.
Yeah.
Like, goddamn.
I had the same reaction the first time I watched it. I was like, wait, what about this? What about that? What about this? Because I remember the scariest movie moments. I feel like it's maybe that or maybe something similar. The Jo Beth Williams, the mom, popping out of the unfilled pool with the skeletons is definitely one of those things. Yeah.
There's just the still shot is totally in there.
Yeah. It's almost like with a sitcom where you'd like come back in for one more joke. It's like 30 seconds long, except it's 15 minutes in this movie.
Yes. So I forgot that I wanted to talk about that. I've waited so long to see these movies, any of them, because I got scared by them in a Planet Hollywood. You started to hear me tell this story with my boyfriend, and you're like, I'm going to walk away so you can tell it through on the podcast.
Yeah.
We were at a Planet Hollywood. I was probably like 8 to 10, I'm going to say.
Yeah, that feels right.
And I don't know if it was around Halloween or what, but they had like a horror movie loop. And like obviously it is it's a family restaurant, so they're not going to show like gore or anything extreme, but it's spooky. And it was like they showed like Chucky walking down a hallway or whatever, and then they kept cutting back to this scene. I think it's from the sequel, the second one, because unless they recast Carol Ann for the third one,
Carol Ann's in all three. She's the only. Her and Zelda Rubinstein are the only people in all three.
I thought she passed away before the third one.
She died, like, she might not have been alive when the third one came out.
But it's Carol Ann in front of, like standing, it looks like on, like a kitchen, like a bathroom sink in, like, footy pajamas. And her reflection turns evil and grabs her and starts dragging her up the mirror. And, like, my little 8-year-old, 10-year-old brain was, like, could not comprehend this and was so terrified by this visual that I was like, I can't see these movies.
Sure.
And so I just avoided them forever. Eventually I would like to see this one where it has the mirror bit in it, but that mirror bit at a Planet Hollywood scared me so bad. It was like that and the doobie doobie doo penguin are like the two biggest like childhood fears that I have.
Have we ever talked about the penguin before? It's like, in hindsight, one of the funniest things. Like, kids get really scared of like weird stuff, but that one, rocking your world that way, still is amusing to me.
I don't know why. And so like if you've seen Stranger Things season 4, like the clock chime and like boo sound of like when someone is like scared of a thing.
Yeah.
I was like put on a compilation of 80s and 90s Halloween commercials just to like have it on the background. And the sound starts, and my brain has like remembered everything about it. So as soon as I heard the phone ring and they were like, "How's your butt ice?" my blood ran cold, and I heard the like boo in my head, and I was like, "This is my moment."
That's so funny.
So it was a collection of Bud Ice commercials about a claymation or stop motion penguin or puppet penguin.
I thought it was like a puppet. Yeah, I think it's a puppet.
pup penguin who wants to drink the Bud Ice, but they're all themed after urban legends. So there's the like
Oh,
the
they're
guy
not,
in your
they're not all the calls coming from inside.
No, there's the calls coming from inside the house.
Okay.
There
okay.
is
In my memory, they're all variants of When a Stranger Calls.
No. The other one is there's a guy in your back seat and the people behind you are flashing their high beams at you.
Okay.
And then there's I can't remember what I can't remember what the other ones are now. There's like 3 or 4, I want to say, because one of them is not. One of them is like he's like in a sarcophagus for some reason, and I was like, we've strayed too far from the path.
Yeah.
But yeah, that stupid penguin calling from inside the house utterly terrified me as a kid.
Yeah.
Now I have a sweatshirt of it that Mom found.
Yeah. Well, we got the sweatshirt for you when you were young. I don't think you would wear it.
You got it from when I was young?
Yeah. It was like, like a dad gift where he buys you something that like he knows you're
like a nudge gift.
Yeah. Like when you got was it Stinky Pete?
Stinky Pete,
his name from Toy Story 2 that you hated so much. But yeah, it was. We definitely bought that for you when you were young, and you like hated it, and they probably just refound it and gave it to you. And now you're an adult, and it's funny.
Yeah. I tried to explain to my boyfriend. I was like, "This terrified me as a kid." I was like, objectively, this will not be scary when I show you.
Yeah,
but
yeah, man, kid brains, they're weird. So back at the house, Mom's like, "Hey kids, can you put yourselves to bed?" They've been packing up. They're getting ready to leave. The house is
because
like,
Craig T. Nelson is like, "We are leaving tonight."
Yeah, and it's like the fact that they sleep one more night in this house is honestly kind of insane to me.
Yeah, no, I would sleep in a car. I would sleep in the moving truck.
Yeah, like just no way. But the mom's like, I'm going to take a nice hot bath. And they have like a huge tub. She's like, she maybe dyes her hair, maybe doesn't. I don't know.
The tub's not full enough. She's dyeing her hair.
Yeah. But she like takes a relaxing bath and she's blow drying her hair. And then like the kids are kind of squabbling. And then this damn clown, it's like, why is this clown still in the room? The kid's afraid of it. And this crazy shit just happened. It should have gone to the dumpster. What are we doing here?
Yeah, that's an incinerator. Like when you get a giant box in a horror movie and it's a good guy doll or an Annabelle doll in the incinerator.
Yes. Speaking of, the guy who directed Annabelle was like a crew member on this. I forget what his job was, but he was one of the
first Annabelle?
Yes. But he was one of the ones who said that Spielberg basically directed this movie. Zelda Rubinstein, I think, gave credit to Toby, and then Spielberg
Zelda Rubinstein did not like Toby Hooper. She said he was high all the time.
Okay, because so one of the actors is like, oh yeah, Steven kind of had to come in because Toby was always high. But then Steven like did an open letter to Toby that was like, you did a great job. I don't know why I'm making Steven Spielberg George Lucas, but that's my director.
Yeah, it's like that's a weird voice.
I have 4 impressions. You've listened to this podcast for 8 years, you know this. It's like, congratulations on a great movie, Toby. You did a wonderful job. I can't wait to see what your next project is. And it's like, what? Why would this be a public? Why is this being done in public? This feels like
because there was no Twitter back then, so they can't squash the beef on Twitter.
Well, the beef, it didn't seem like Toby had beef. It seemed like the Directors Guild had beef. And the Directors Guild was like, hey, you got to show contrition for the screw up you've made, Steven.
Well, I think it's also that people were like, oh, he didn't, I think there was beef because people were genuinely like content. Like they were like, well, Spielberg said he directed the movie. And like because someone like, he was quoted as being like, Toby Hooper is not like a take charge kind of guy. So I gave my suggestions and he took them.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is code for like, I was involved heavily, obviously.
Yes.
Anyway, so we're back at there's this stupid clown. It immediately attacks Robbie. There's like some great stuff where he's like looking at
it's a great fake out reveal.
I mean, it's a classic, like you look under the bed, just kidding, the monster's in the bed with you, but it's done perfectly here, obviously.
Like in Ernest Scared Stupid with the troll.
Yeah. Yeah. Or that great short film that got turned into a full-length movie with like the woman with the lights on.
Oh, Lights Out?
Yeah. Okay. I was like, it's light something.
I love short form horror. Like if you can give me a horror movie that's less than 10 minutes, I am sold.
Yeah.
There's a really great one.
One good punch.
Yeah. Crypt TV was really, they've expanded a lot beyond this now. They used to be really good at like less than 10-minute horror. The one thing they did was The Thing in the Apartment, and like the concept of it still chills me sometimes. It's like a woman in bed on her phone. And so like it's a dark room and her face is lit up by like bright blue. And then she kind of realizes that like, I can't, with my phone so bright, I can't see what's in my room. Like if something's in my room with me, and she hears something and she just turns her phone around and there's a creature in her room in the dark. I was like, I was like, and she freaks out. There's a lot more to it after that.
Yeah.
But I was just like, that concept is like, oh shit.
Yeah. No.
I don't like being in bed I have the TV on and I'm on my phone because I won't do it in the dark anymore.
So Robbie's getting attacked right in front of Carol Ann, and then
The portal opens.
Yeah, the portal opens, and it looks like very Evil Dead-y again. It's like just like an esophagus with like later a tendril comes out of it.
Yeah, like a tongue maybe. We can call it a tongue.
Yeah, but it's not like tongue-like. It's more like snake
it's thin.
tail. Yeah. So Mom, Jo Beth Williams, gets thrown around the room in Freddy fashion, like it pulls her shirt
It's
up.
a little sexual.
Yes, it is. It's like you see her in her underwear a lot, which is like very odd for the character of how this movie has been thus far.
Mm-hmm.
And she's getting like rolled around the room. It's obviously like a room on a gimbal, but it looks really cool. The kids are getting choked.
But it's especially cool because there's like some furniture and like moving boxes on the ground.
Yes.
So like obviously they can be screwed down or whatever, but like it makes it feel that much more real.
Yeah, exactly. That it's like nothing. The bed too. Like it's great. It's really good. I'm like you, always a sucker for that. It always works for me.
So there's a door in the kids' room is like surrounded in ectoplasm on the outside.
It's like sort of between Ghostbusters and Evil Dead. I keep referencing other things.
It's
both.
It's
both those styles. Yeah.
So Jo Beth Williams gets stopped by this giant. She gets stopped by this giant like dog human creature, spider. It looks like Jack Skellington with a grosser face.
Yeah, sure. That's a good jumping off point for it. Very limby.
Yeah. And so Jo Beth Williams, assuming that it's not a stunt person, is like being thrown around this house and this yard.
Yes. Yeah, really getting her ass kicked. If it's a stunt person, kudos to the stunt person for getting their ass kicked. This realistically, it's great.
Yeah.
I mean,
she like touches the front door and gets thrown backwards.
There's also a great spot where she like tries to go up the stairs and the railings like shoot sparks. It's like electrified. It's really great.
Yeah, and then she slips into the pool and just like poor thing tumbles in the mud into this gross pool, and then she's surrounded by real she didn't know it, real human skeletons.
Yeah. Wait, what? Are you saying they used real skeletons to film the movie?
Yes.
And the actress didn't know?
No, not till after.
That seems incredibly crappy.
I mean, it's not. The skeletons are for like. It's not like they grave robbed. They got like science skeletons.
I'm just saying, if I donated my body to science and then I later found out that they made Poltergeist with it, I'm a movie nerd, so I'd be fine with it. But I feel like most people aren't going to be like, yeah, that's an appropriate scientific.
Jo Beth Williams didn't know that they were skeletons. Is what I said.
No, I know, but I'm speaking.
See, I would rather be able to donate my body to a movie. Like, if that's an option.
You want to be like that very famous, it's a real story, but like urban legend type story of like the spooky haunted house that had a real skeleton in it.
Yeah, like I want that.
You want to be that? You want to scare children at a morgue or whatever?
You can treat it however you need to like dry me out or whatever you fucking do for skeletons. But like put me in a movie or honestly, you can throw me out of a plane if you need a bag of soup. Okay. Throw me out of a plane.
That seems very unsanitary. I would much rather they fill a fake body with Jell-O.
Well, yeah, but like I don't know. I use me for a movie. I would be the first person who donated their body to the arts. Fuck science.
I donated
it to the arts.
Oh, that's perfect.
Fuck STEM.
So Mom, she falls in the pool, like we said. The skeletons start popping up. The skeletons popping up out of the ground and out of the water looks so awesome. This effect looks amazing.
Because you don't know if they're supposed to be moving or not. Like You're like, are they? Is it supposed to be they're alive skeletons?
Right.
It's just very cool.
Because they all keep, like, they come up, the door falls open, and then the skeleton sort of falls out, which is, scary enough. But then it's like, oh, are we going to get, like, Evil Dead skeletons? And I think it's more effective here that they don't do that, but...
Well, I meant more like the ones in the pool, like, it's because they're just skellies. They're not, like, in a casket, so they'll pop up and their little jaw comes open.
Yes. And the one sort of gets, like, an arm around her because she comes up underneath it.
Yeah.
Really scary.
So finally the neighbors hear her. And they're like, what is happening? I'm out of here. Which, like, why do the neighbors have to show up in this sequence at all?
Well, she's, like, screaming for help from them. Then she falls in the pool. Then they rescue her. And then she's like, come help me save my children. And the dude's like, absolutely not.
I mean, I'll be honest. I don't know that I wouldn't be a hero in this situation.
I just feel like, why did you come over?
Your pool is full of skeletons, ma'am.
Right.
Like,
right. I just feel like,
I'm out.
Yeah. Oh, so you're saying you heard this cries for help, you came in, and then it was like, oh, too much for me.
Yeah, I'll help you out of the pool, but like your pool is full of skeletons. There's clearly something going on in your house. Like, I'm out.
Yeah.
It's a no for me, dog.
Yeah. I mean, it seems crazy in the context of the movie, but I do understand what you're saying. So the gross giant esophagus is there. We get like a big shot of it in the kids' room.
And then we get the cool hallway. She runs up the stairs and is like, "Get away from my children!" And then the hallway where their doors, like it's changed somehow, but it's like a stretching hallway, and she has to like run a while down it.
Okay, that's really cool.
And then
I love when she gets the door open and she's like getting sucked into the room and like trying to reach for the kids. This
is another one where I wonder if it was an upside down, like a sideways room.
It could be, yeah, it would make sense.
Because I'm like, her being wired for this seems a lot more effort than wired the other way for safety and just like drop her.
Yeah, I don't know. It looks awesome as hell though.
Oh yeah, and then Craig T. Nelson comes home, and when he gets to the front door, it sounds like a Star Wars battle.
It does sound like a Star Wars battle upstairs. It's real laser pew pew pew.
Caskets are growing up all over the house, popping up out of the floor.
There's a really great moment where like they get the front door open and Craig T. Nelson like runs up to the door and then the skeleton pops up and blocks it and the door slams shut. It's like really great of the like they're trapped now.
And then for some reason Mr. Teague is with him. Like I don't know why
I think he's being dropped off by Mr. Teague.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because he went to work.
Yeah. And so this is where Mr. Teague, he is like, "You only move the headstones, you son of a bitch."
Yeah, this guy deserved to get punched, and I was really disappointed that he didn't get punched.
Frankly, Mr. Teague should have been the one affected by everything, not this family. They didn't know shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that like their daughter had the ESP or whatever.
Yeah.
So the mom's running. This is the other Carol Ann doll where it's like stiff as a board in her arms.
Yeah.
They get to the car. They get in. The Craig T. Nelson, too many keys. I am a key minimalist, and I think there's probably like a part of my brain that's like a key minimalist because of horror movies, where it's like there is never a problem because I only have 3 keys at max on a key ring. It's like house, work, car, and that is it.
My problem is I have my apartment needs 4 keys.
Yeah, too many keys.
But I can't change it. It's
I would
front
have,
door locks.
If I was you, I would have a carabiner, and the car key would be on its own thing, and that would be on its own, so I could disregard those keys. But if you're talking about like trying to get into your house, that's a nightmare to me.
Yeah, so I have 2 different front door keys, like an outdoor and an inner door.
Yeah.
They have their own little keycap, so I can tell just by touch.
Okay.
Then there's a garage door key and a back door key.
Yeah, that's a lot of keys for if you're being chased by Poltergeist, for example. That's a lot of keys.
Yeah, I mean, like I don't need a key. I don't need like I can unlock my car just by touching it.
Yeah,
as long as my keys are on me.
Modern cars are different, obviously.
Yes, but they do a good. They linger on his little butt as he's grabbing around and reaching for keys.
He looks great. He's got a real
he's hot dad energy.
Yeah, for sure. This whole sequence of the neighborhood like going crazy, it's just like this is almost like something out of The Burbs. It's like so over the top, but somehow it feels perfect in the movie. It's really, really good.
But again, like if no one else in the neighborhood was affected by ghosts till now, like this is a lot.
At the point at which my fire hydrant ejects 12 feet of flame, I'm getting in the car and driving as far away as possible.
Yeah. I want the like the bewitched neighbor moment of like, the fire hydrant is exploding fire. And the husband's like, "You're making things up again, dear," as he's reading his paper.
Newspaper, yeah. That would be the cut in The Burbs for sure.
Yes, and then the house implodes on itself.
Looks so awesome. I have no idea how they did this. I guess
it looks like they made it out of like tin can material and then like put a vacuum in it. Obviously that's not how. There's no way that's how they did it.
Honestly, it could be a miniature that could be sucked in by a shop vac, but it looks cool as hell.
And then you get
This last shot is like so perfect for this movie. I really
with
love
the TV.
Both of this. Well, both. Where it's like the beleaguered family walking up to the motel. Craig T. Nelson can't find the keys, and the kid just like hands them over. And then the door slamming shut, and then the TV like he opens the door, puts the TV outside, and then the camera pulls slowly back. So good.
The only thing I want for this is like the Foley of him yanking the cord out of the wall.
Yes. Yeah. I wanted the cord dangling over the top of the TV because there's no cord visible. And that's the only thing I wanted that I didn't have.
Yeah. I wanted the yoink.
Yeah. So what did you think as a first timer?
I really liked it. It's solid. I mean, it's good. It's atmospheric. It's definitely more atmosphere horror, which I like.
Agreed. Yeah. I have seen this a couple times. But it played really great for me on this one. It's great performances all around from the whole family, including the kids, which is not often the case.
Yeah.
Love the practical effects. Love everything about it. I think I would give this movie like a whole tick up. And we don't letter grade here, but I would go like half a tick or more up if it was slightly re-edited, because I think I love the mayhem in the last 15
Verna
minutes.
passed away this year, so.
Oh, yeah. Well, if only. I love the last 15 minutes and the mayhem, but just the way that it's paced with the false ending always messes with me. So that's my 2 cents. But it's a strong recommend for me.
I agree. Same here.
On HBO Max, I assume all through the month of July, and maybe further, but at least through the month of July if you're listening to this when it comes out. Really, really good movie. Really worth your time. Thank you so much for listening to the show. If you want to get a hold of us, you can visit us on Facebook at Dissecting the 80s. We are on Twitter at Dissect the 80s, no ING. If you haven't reviewed the show yet, please go do that. And then don't forget to visit us at patreon.com/dissecting the 80s. We have a ton of bonus content there at the $5 tier. I believe we're over 26 hours now of bonus content. We just put up a full-length episode on Stripes, which was pretty solid and funny, if you ask me. I know I made it, but I feel pretty good about it. That was the end of Listener Request Month. You get all sorts of perks and bonus episodes at the $5 tier. You get a custom RSS feed so you can listen in any app, and you get all that content the minute you sign up, all the old stuff, all the new stuff. We've got another bonus episode coming up in September. And go check that out. There's all sorts of great stuff there. Patreon.com/dissecting the 80s. Thank you so much for listening to the show. I've been Trip Lano.
I will always be Andrew Lano.
Until next time.
Don't you forget about me.
Dissecting the 80s is a Chum Some of This production.